here we are again. I'm Rex Sykes. I'm the host of Create Your Best Life with Rex. And it's another day. I've got another fabulous guest for you. You're going to want to enjoy in just a moment. We got a lot going on here at the studio, so bear with me, please. I'm going to tell you my guest today. I'm excited to have. He's somebody I've known for quite some time. He's an incredible actor, comedian, and host in his own right. His name is Joel Marshall, and he's currently known for his hit live streaming program, Joel Marshall's Lunch Therapy, which is now in its fifth year. He's a stand-up comic and an actor in Hollywood, and the show, Joel Marshall's Lunch Therapy, takes place every Tuesday and Friday at noon Pacific time, and there's always a very live chat room with many witty regulars and a cast of fun characters, and the show's constantly evolving. Our fun sketches, commercials, animal science, and all the best actors, directors, activists, artists, and comedians joining Joel for his live interviews and performances. So if you haven't yet seen Lunch Therapy, we're going to provide you a link, and you're going to be able to do that. The next show will be Friday. And he now has a library of over 600 shows available on Joel Marshall's Lunch Therapy YouTube channel, and they're all aimed at helping you to take a break from the crap. And for some, it seems like there's an awful lot of crap. So when you need a break, you go see Joel at Lunch Therapy. He began his career at the famed Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago and went on to play Romeo at Shakespeare and Company in Massachusetts. I didn't know that about you, Joel. We'll have to talk about that. He played Romeo. He produced a podcast called Fat Free Film in the Indie Film Podcast in the early days of podcasting, like before people even knew what a podcast was. And he interviewed such greats as Leonard Nimoy, Patricia Arquette, and Peter Bogdanovich. And he went on to produce the award-winning film Equal Means Equal, which was produced by Joel Kamala, his wife, who also directed it. My sister also wrote and produced with them, Ginny Sykes. And this film has done great things to inform people that women are not represented in the U.S. Constitution, and has helped get the last 3 states needed to ratify the ERA. And the film won the audience award at Michael Moore's Traverse City Film Festival. So without any further delay, I'm going to bring Joel up, and you might hear from my girl Bailey here in just a minute. Here's Joel. How you doing, Joel?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thanks for being on the show. I'm very delighted that you're here, and that with all the noise in the background, you know they're barking for you. She's going, Joel's here, Joel's here.
So great to have an audience, especially of like-minded individuals, like a dog.
Yeah, and so I need to say to the audience and to you that normally we also stream to Facebook. I've been kicked off of Facebook again, so I have somebody who usually puts it on for me. I can use it on my phone, but I can't get on through my computer. It's some Facebook snap screw up. It's typical of Facebook. But the point is that normally this will be streaming on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook and other places, and the chat is oftentimes run through some of those. So I may or may not see people commenting, or if they're not connected, I may not see the chat. So they may be there, but we won't know it. So
also, anybody who's watching the show, please share it around, like and subscribe, do all that stuff to help Rex with his channel, because this is independent media. It's very important, especially at these times.
Well, let me start off by asking about Romeo, playing Romeo in Shakespeare. Yeah. So where art thou in the whole process?
Wherefore art thou? Wherefore art thou? Which kind of means, why are you Romeo?
Exactly.
I was at a place called Shakespeare and Company. I went to grad school at Cal Arts, California Institute of the Arts here in Los Angeles. After that, I was looking for what I should do next, and I really enjoyed Shakespeare. We did a lot of Shakespeare in the Park in Santa Clarita, which is where Cal Arts is, and we had a Shakespeare Company out there. We were doing Shakespeare, and I just loved it. And so I went to Massachusetts to a place called Shakespeare and Company to do an internship, because they were this incredible Shakespeare company that was in the Berkshires. And I was lucky enough to get the role of Romeo. I could have played Shakespeare though. I could have with this look. Yeah, I played Romeo. Romeo. I remember when I got cast, I was kind of like, and not to say that I was always cast as the lead in plays. I mean, it's quite the opposite. But here I got cast as the lead, and I was kind of like, well, that's the boring guy. Because I thought, I want to be Tybalt or Mercutio or, and I had seen the play at when I was at Steppenwolf interning there, and I saw it performed by these wonderful actors. And the guy who did the Queen Mab Mercutio speech got like a standing ovation. It was so good. I'd never seen anything like it. And it was an audience of high school kids, and they were just loving this play. And I don't know, Romeo just seemed like boring. But then when I got to play the part, I realized that he goes everywhere. Romeo, it's a funny part. A lot of times people don't realize it's funny. It's also, got a lot of emotional ups and downs. There's a lot of crying. There's a suicide at the end, virtually a suicide. And there is, he falls in love. He has a great fight scene. So it's all amazing. And it was one of the greatest parts I've ever played. And I got to play it several times because I did it there at Shakespeare and Company. And I had 2 Juliets, like it was a rotating Juliet, And then
that should be a name of something, Rotating Juliet.
It's a new band.
Yeah.
So, but also then when I was in Los Angeles, I went to Los Angeles afterwards, which is quite a startling shock when an actor hits Los Angeles. And I was lucky enough, a friend of mine named Ross Bolin was playing Tybalt in a local production at Company of Angels. And I should play Shakespeare now. I like that. I do have an idea for that. But so I was just working a temp job, just hating life. Ross Bolin called me up and he was like, hey, our Romeo bailed out because he got a movie of the week and we need you to come in and play Romeo. And I'm like, when do you want me to do it? And they're like, how about tomorrow? I was like, what? So I was like, yeah, okay. And so I met with the Benvolio guy who was playing Benvolio, who's Romeo's best friend. And we just sat and kind of went over the lines, but I didn't even know where they had cut the scenes or what the hell was going on. I didn't meet Juliet until the moments before the play began. I found out it was set in the future. There was a knife fight rather than a sword fight. I went over the fight with them. There were dancers in it. Romeo was the lead singer of the band. He was sort of like a Jim Morrison character, and he wore like leather pants and stuff. So in the dance, he's actually the lead singer of the band. It was just super fun, but it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I was in a play where I didn't know what was going to happen next. I didn't know if the next scene was going to be cut. I had to really listen, had to really pay attention. There were dancers on the stage during the balcony scene, and I was like, do I see them? Do I what? And there's never been I've never been more present in any production ever in my life since that. I mean, before or since, because it was just imposed.
Well, it sounds marvelous, and it also is, always be prepared and take advantage of the opportunity. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that as an actor, that you could step into that having done it, and then be delighted with the fact that there were a lot of things you hadn't prepared for.
Yes, and you can always prepare, but you never know what's going to happen, and I guess that's true about any kind of performance.
True about life. I mean, you can be as prepared as possible, and who knows what's going to. Yeah. But no, that's a great story. I thought, at first you said with the hair, I could have played Juliet, but
I could have
young Joel Marshall is Juliet, but
it's not a bad idea. I'm still available. I'm available,
and you still could play it. Yes, indeed, yeah. Both parts. You could do both. You could do
Romeo, one man Romeo and Juliet. I saw a one man Scottish play. I can't say it because I'm phobic. The Scottish play. You can't say the actual name of it if you're in some kind of theater or something like that. Anyway, I have seen it performed as one person performing the entire play, and it was quite incredible.
Wow.
but that's neither here nor there. But I love Shakespeare.
Oh, that's great. I don't. I mean, I've never been
You
a
don't?
huge fan. I mean, I've stuff, but I never had the desire to do it. I've gone to performances and have been blown away, but I'm not good with old English.
One of the things that I found when I was doing Shakespeare in Santa Clarita, we do it in the park. We did Winter's Tale and a few other ones. The kids who came to the show in the park, they understood it better than the parents. Afterwards, they would come up to us and they'd be like, "You were bad," or that was mean what you did to that person," because they didn't have a thing on it. They're not thinking like, "Oh, this is old English" or anything like that. I think they're just absorbing, and they're also using their eyes to see things in a physical way that sometimes, we close off, especially as adults. If there's something that maybe we don't understand, we kind of close up sometimes. Not kids, or not those kids.
That's a great point. I mean, I just don't understand the English. I mean, it's like, wherefore art thou? I said, where art thou? You go, no, it's wherefore art. And explain it, and I'm like, okay, explain it to me, Ricky.
Well, that's kind of a famous one that is misunderstood.
Well, it's also like my favorite is, parting is such sweet sorrow. I shall say goodbye until tomorrow, and then you go goodbye, 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 until the next day.
Until the next day.
Well, that's what I said I would do, right? I'll say goodbye until tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because somebody pointed this out to me when I was doing the play, and it was really helpful. Was when Romeo goes into the tomb and he thinks that Juliet's dead, but she's taken a potion to pretends like she's dead. Everything that he says about her says that she's alive. Talks about the tincture of her lips and the that she doesn't look alive, and that's kind of like, it seems as if she's still alive. And the fact is she is. And if he would have been paying attention, maybe he wouldn't have taken the poison because he thought she was dead. So it's really kind of, a lot of times you have to look at the words for what they are.
Well, it's really also a huge life lesson.
Yes.
Don't go on assumptions. Just because something may appear a certain way, maybe you need to check and to verify.
Pay attention, damn it.
Don't act. Because you think something is the way it might be.
Yeah, you're like, I'm in a tomb. She must be dead.
Right, and then she wakes up and goes, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, and then, oh no.
Right. Well, how tragic, I mean.
It was hard in the Berkshires when I die. The mosquitoes would come. So it was really hard to lay there dead.
Oh, wow.
With all the mosquitoes, because you could hear them land on you. You could hear them sucking the blood out of your skin.
Wow,
that was the real tragedy.
Yeah, there's a place in Door County, Wisconsin. My daughter was 2 years old. We went camping, and they said, "Do you want to go see Guys and Dolls?" At this play, in theater. And I'm like, "No, why would I want to see Guys and Dolls in the middle of nowhere?"
Yeah.
And they go, "No, this is a theater. You're going to like it." And I'm like, "Nah, I don't think so." Well, they finally convinced me to go. And there's this bluff, and you overlook it, and they give you wine, or you purchase wine, so you watch the sunset. And then after the sunset, you go into the theater, which is a bug-netted outdoor theater.
Wow.
It's all stock, summer stock. So it's TV stars are doing the play. I had the best time inside this bug-netted theater watching Guys, and better than the movie. I mean, I really, really enjoyed the performance that they did.
I believe it.
But they were smart enough to have bug nets so that the bug in the audience didn't get bit up.
That is smart. That's really smart. We were on Edith Wharton's estate in Lenox, Massachusetts. So Edith Wharton, the great writer, she had this estate and this beautiful mansion that was just going to shit. And Tina Packer, who's this woman from England who was a Shakespearean actress who came to America to start her own Shakespeare company, she took on the renovation of this place and put Shakespeare theaters out in the woods. And then they also would do reenactments of performance of her plays in there. Why didn't you cover yourself with insect repellent? The answer is I did. I got smart, but it was kind of weird because you'd go to kiss Juliet and it would just be like, so you kind of have to play against that. But yeah, we were covered in deep woods off. So yeah. Yes. And anyway, so it was a really wonderful, idyllic environment for an actor because we were in the woods and we'd do Shakespeare out there in the park. And Keanu Reeves was there, and lots of famous actors came through. Andre Gregory, the guy from My Dinner with Andre, came there and performed Prospero. There were lots of, it was really a magical moment. And that's a magical place, the Berkshires, because there's dance, there's music, the Boston Symphony, summer's there. I would go see like Arlo Guthrie at Tanglewood, and I saw Pete Seeger and got a chance to like hang out with them. And it was really a marvelous, magical experience that I would recommend to anybody.
Wow.
They also had a workshop with Shakespeare where they take teachers, they give them a month intensive where they bring teachers of everything, French teachers, science teachers, math teachers. How many teachers can I name? A lot. They'd all do Shakespeare, and it enriched their teaching abilities because they'd find their voice. They challenge themselves to have emotions that they don't normally have, so it was kind of a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful place and a beautiful thing. I think it's still going on. I imagine they're not at Edith Wharton's estate though, because they made it so nice that the board of the Edith Wharton estate kicked them out. They fixed the place up, and then they were like, "This place is great. Now get out of here.
Be gone."
So now I think they have their own theater someplace else.
So I want to point out that we have someone who's making some comments. I don't know where, if they're on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn.
YouTube.
But they're YouTube. So they're getting through on YouTube. Okay. So if you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're watching, do go ahead and comment. Even if it doesn't show up on our screen now, leave comments, subscribe to the show, obviously like the show, ask questions of Joel. We got great questions for Joel already. Why aren't you doing Shakespeare today? And why did you cover yourself with bug spray? I mean, what everybody wants.
Good questions. Yeah. The real stuff that people want to know.
That's kind of like you like Keanu Reeves, you're Joel Marshall, you're doing Romeo, and they run up to you and go, yes. Then you go, why don't you use bug spray?
Yeah. Duh. Marshall, what's wrong with you? Yeah, no, we did. We used a lot. I can still taste it to this day.
You still taste it, yes, indeed. So you also, that was a good answer. You also, Steppenwolf. How did you like that experience? It was very prestigious theater.
Yeah, that was one of the things in life. I think you got to go for it. You always got to go for it. And so I was in, especially when things feel like they're not going your way. Like I went to undergrad at the University of Washington, which was a really great theater program, but I learned a lot of academics and I didn't get on the stage very much. And in fact, my last year there, one of the teachers said, "Oh, well, next year you're going to get all the stage time you want." And I was like, "Well, I'm graduating in a month." So they were like, "Oh," so it didn't work out that way. I spent a lot of time holding a spear or, building doorways or costumes and things like that. So I learned a lot about theater, but not about performance. So after that, I went around and auditioned to a bunch of local Seattle theater companies. And they were like, "You're like a kid. You need to get out of here and have some experience." So I had gotten a tape of, this is from Blockbuster Video, so this is a long time ago. I got a VHS tape of True West because I knew about Sam Shepard and I thought he was so cool. And I put it in and I was just blown away by this production of True West by this company called Steppenwolf that I never heard of before. And it was John Malkovich and Gary Sinise. And they had done this at Steppenwolf, and then it went to Broadway or off Broadway. And I was like, what are these people doing? Like, it just seemed so visceral. It was what they called rock and roll theater. It was very visceral and it seemed real. And when apparently John Malkovich was drinking all these beers during the thing, and he actually was drinking real beer to the point where he felt like he became an alcoholic. So he had to stop doing it. But they were, very, what I would like to call blue collar actors, that they're doing a job and they're doing it the best way they can. And they don't see themselves any different from anybody who holds any other job, but they want to do it right. And so I was really intrigued by them. And I started looking into Steppenwolf. There was no internet back then, so I don't even know how I found out. I'd look at the front of plays that I was reading and be like, "Oh, this is a Steppenwolf play." And I'd look at the actors And some of them I saw on the screen. And I was kind of like, that's the way to be a great actor, is to go study at a theater company or be in a theater company, and then, start doing roles on the screen. Like Willem Dafoe was like that as well, because he was like in the Living Theater. And or the Wooster Group, I believe. And I was like, that's the life that I want to have. I want to do quality theater work, and then I want to do movie and television, or movie roles is basically what they were doing. So I was like, and then my friend said, I'm moving to Chicago. Do you want to come with me? Because he had gone to Northwestern. He had a girlfriend in Chicago. And at the time, I had been auditioning in Seattle, and they were like, you're a kid. What's wrong with you? You got to go someplace else. So I thought, I'm going to go to Steppenwolf. So I got in a car with him. We put all our belongings on the roof. We slept at rest stops. We went to Chicago, got this apartment with a friend of his. And I opened up the phone book to find out where Steppenwolf was, because I didn't even know. And in fact, it wasn't me who opened up the phone book. It was my friend's friend's parents. They were like, you're here to go to Steppenwolf? They're like, where is it? I'm like, I don't know. And I remember I started just sweating because I realized how unprepared I was.
I hope it's Chicago.
I'm like, I hope they're there. Hope they're even there. So they looked at the address. I went over there. This is a classic tale that I tell, but it's a good learning, I guess, an example of going for it. And I went in there and I was just like, I want to work here. And the guy who was behind the counter there, the ticket counter, he was like, you will never work here. And I was like, what? His name was Wilson. This guy, Wilson. He goes, you will never work here. He goes, John Malkovich did the costumes for the last show. Everybody who's in the ensemble, there are all these pictures on the wall. They all do everything here. And we have 2 interns. We get them from ISU. It's a big competition to get that internship. So you don't have a chance. And I was like, here's my phone number. Call me when you need me. And I gave them this phone number that was the phone number at that place. And they called me that night.
Wow. And
they said, Wilson quit. Will you come in and run the ticket office?
He wasn't just a basketball, right?
That wasn't just a volleyball. In fact, Wilson, who I would love to get on my show, Wilson, if you're out there, he went off to England, somehow sold them that he was a big-time director from Chicago, Steppenwolf, and started directing Sam Shepard plays at the National Theater.
Wow.
And became a famous director, or famous in that world.
Wow.
Wilson Milam is his guy's name. The only reason I know this is because I looked him up on Wikipedia after telling this story one time. I'm like, what happened to Wilson? No, he was something. But he was obviously fed up in some way that he passed that crap on to me. You never know what kind of crap people are going to pass on to you. And you got to kind of go through it. Marshawn Lynch, running back for the Seattle Seahawks, he said this. He said, sometimes you got to go through the player rather than try and avoid them. You got to go through. And that was one of those times where you just got to go through. And I went on to work there. I basically was an intern, but I was like a paid intern because I worked in the ticket office. And then I would just ask, can I do something on the show? So I was a stage manager, and I was an understudy, and I got on and had this wonderful experience with all these incredible actors and learned a lot from them. So that was a great time for me.
That's awesome. I want to encourage people, if they're watching, wherever they're watching live, they can ask questions or leave comments. Certainly when the show is in replay, they can leave comments and like and subscribe and share. We have a comment here. There we go. Again, how do you define one's best life?
Such a good question.
It is a great question.
Are you going to take that one?
No, I'm taking you take that one.
Because I always wonder that. I wonder that myself. I have to constantly readjust that answer in my life. Right now, my answer to that is you got to do the things that make you happy. And obviously, they can't be things that are going to be hurtful to other people. But you got to find those things that make you happy and do them. And then also help other people do them as well. So one of the things, like when I started that Fat Free Film podcast, one of the reasons I started it, and then like you said in the intro, people didn't know what podcasts were.
Right.
One of the reasons I started it was because I went to theater school, like I told you there, but I didn't learn about filmmaking. And so here I was now realizing, oh, you got to make your own stuff if nobody's going to put you in anything. You have to make your own thing. So I was like, I got to learn how to do filmmaking. And I figured I could interview filmmakers and then podcast it so that other people could learn along with me. And and I loved doing it. I loved talking to people. What we did back then is we'd go over to their house with basically just a little video camera, and I leave the lens cap on, and I just set it in the middle of the table. I had a microphone on the top, and we just record the thing. That's how we started doing it. And then I'd have to like digitize it and upload it and make an RSS feed and all this crap. But that was also something that I loved doing at the time. I was really into computers. In my mind, I saw what was going to happen with computers, how there was going to be this convergence of the entertainment industry and computers and everything. And so that was one of the things that I really followed as like, I just love doing this thing. And now I feel that way about stand-up comedy. When I feel healthier, seems odd because a lot of times comedians are not that healthy, but I feel healthier if I'm regularly getting on a stage, working out my material. I do it at open mics. It doesn't have to be at the Comedy Store, but it is sometimes. But I feel much healthier when I'm doing that. So I follow that because it's like something good about that. Something good's happening there. Same with acting. I do a lot of acting. I might not be on your favorite television show as of yet, but I do hundreds of scenes. I'm always working on things, and I'm always writing things for myself and trying to make little short films out of it because I love it. I love it. One of the problems is in my life, and I don't know the answer to this, is I've always compartmentalized my money making and my art. And I actually think that this is a decision that I've made because I want the art I don't want somebody to tell me what to do. And that might be a problem.
Well, I have an answer for you. Answer for you. Bridge that gap so that your art makes money.
Yeah.
And make so much money that nobody could tell you what to do.
I love that. I love Pastor Huckleberry too here, who said wonderful. Thank you. I agree with that. Yeah, I love that. I love what you're saying.
I didn't even see that. Did that
flash? Yeah, it just came through. I
have no idea. There's like ghosts in the machine. There's ghosts in the studio.
I love it. I can see them here though, and I will try to answer.
Did it come up like that?
There it is. Yeah, I see. I have a little side.
Oh, you have a different. You're looking somewhere else.
Yeah. So I think that yes, I think that's a great idea, and I'm working on that. I also think that sometimes I should allow people to tell me what to do. And that is maybe that's a chip on my shoulder. That's like, screw you. I'm going to go play in my backyard with my ball. You know what I mean?
Well, I had a director yell at me, a woman director yell at me because I said, I have this feature film and I want to give it to an editor, let them cut what they think the story is, and then we'll take a look at it. And she goes, whoa, you're the auteur, you're the artist, you're the director, you're the captain of the ship. Why would you ever do that? And I go, because that person might see a different story that I didn't even know existed within that material. And I want to know what the best options are. So I'm always willing to get feedback. But if I'm convinced that I have the right way, then I expect you to fight me, not physically, but to convince me that your way may be better so that I pay attention and listen so that I don't have my head so far up the rectal canal that I don't notice what I might notice to make something better. So I always think feedback is a great thing to be open to feedback, and to the extent that we are, if the feedback is positive and it's designed to help you improve, that's one thing. Sometimes people just give you feedback to be,
Well, you gotta look at the source, and you gotta look at like who you value their opinion, and then also try and objectively look at something and say, you know what, that does work better. I think that's always a good thing. Be open to things. I know Stanley Kubrick said that he would take notes from the person who set up the coffee table. He would, if it was necessary and it seemed like it was right, The person who was doing the craft services might have a better idea than he has, and to be open to that. You can't be yes to everything. You have to pick and choose. I always say, there's that movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey. And I always say, like, if I was a yes man all the time, I might be cleaning toilets in a cult or something. You know what I mean? So you got to be careful about what you say yes to. But absolutely, Rex. Let's see what Kamala says.
You married a very wise and smart woman there.
Yes, I made a really good decision there.
Thank you, Kamala. Yes, no, I agree.
Says you can always go back and re-edit, but someone else has a fresh POV that you can't possibly have given. That you can't possibly have given how involved you've been in the project. Right. I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we develop tunnel vision because we think this is the story I want to tell.
Have you ever done like a temp track of music, and then you're just kind of married to that music, and it's really hard to let somebody write the real music for it?
I'll share your story. I mean, this is your time, but I'll share a quick story because it's relevant to the conversation. But there's this thing like the 48-hour film festival, where you make a movie, you write it, you script it, you do everything, within 48 hours. Well, there's a theater company that would do that. So on Friday night, they would pull their topics out of a hat, blend them together, go write. Saturday night, the plays would be put on. They do that at the Ruskin in Los Angeles, down by the airport, Santa Monica Airport. Great theater, by the way. If you've never been there,
I don't know.
Go check out what they do at the Ruskin. It is amazing. It's absolutely wonderful. And so anyway, this guy, we went one time, and I said, some of these deserve to be short films. So let's find people who would be willing to let us produce and direct and make short films out of it. They've already scripted it. They've acted it. They know what the deal is. We'll just film it. We got one guy out of everybody who said, yeah, I'll do that. So we spent all this time shooting it, filming it, and everything. And then he said, well, the song that I want for it is, I can't think of the artist now, Elvis Costello song. Oh. Well, we're not going to get an Elvis Costello song for this short, most likely. And he's like, that's what I want. So we pursued it, and Elvis pretty much dropped dead. And so because we deferred to his creative genius, we now had a film we couldn't ever release because he didn't want to release it if he couldn't get the Elvis Costello song. And the film was great. It turned out to be this wonderful short. And the guy that wrote it, or put it all together, just didn't want it because if it didn't have the right end credit music, it wasn't. I'm like,
this is why I am sometimes adverse to collaboration.
Right.
Because somebody can stop something dead in its tracks with that kind of thing and that kind of obstinance. That's not going to help. It's like taking the whole thing and throwing it in the garbage because you're like, I have to have this, and you just don't want to be that person, and you don't want to tie yourself to a person like that too, because it can just ruin everything. And you never know psychologically why somebody's doing that. Maybe it's some other reason, maybe they don't feel like they're good enough, or maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe it's something else that's going on besides their love for one Elvis Costello song. We did a movie called A Single Woman, which was about Jeanette Rankin, who was the first woman in Congress. And we scored the whole thing with the Joni Mitchell song. And we got the whole thing completely finished. Kamala directed it, and we showed it at the Sony lot. And the thing was, we invited her to come. We invited Joni Mitchell to come to get her approval for the song. And so we played the whole movie, and she came. And I mean, Kamala grabbed my hand before the thing. And I still have a mark in my hand for how tight she grabbed my hand because she was so worried about it. And at the end, Joni Mitchell was like, you know what I want to do? I want to give you more songs.
Wow.
It was really cool. We couldn't do it because it was we'd have to break into the whole thing. We just almost just as bad as if she said no. But it was just a beautiful moment, where we got the approval of like one of our great songwriters.
Well, and you bring up another point, because the thing is sometimes an actor will go free, absolutely free. I don't care. I love the project, free.
Yeah.
The agent goes, no, this is what they make, and I want my 10%.
Yeah, it just so happens, I guess, Joni Mitchell had enough clout that she was able to do that. And sometimes people like maintain ownership of their songs, but a lot of times the gears of the business world get in the way of these things too. But we would have had to have let go and come up with something else. Otherwise, there'd be no movie. So sometimes you gotta.
It's never too late.
You never do.
We go, Joni.
Yeah. So those are lessons, big lessons. There's another guy, Stuart Stern, who I interviewed on Fat Free Film, who wrote Rebel Without a Cause, and was this incredible writer. Oh, Kamala says Joni told her publisher that she was giving us both publishing and recording for free. I mean, it's beautiful.
That is beautiful. That truly, I mean, that demonstrates that she was touched by the work that you both did. That is, in and of itself, just worth it.
Kamala says they didn't like that at all. And it was called Circle Game. It's the song Circle Game. Yeah.
They didn't. The publisher didn't like it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's money. Because a lot of times, well, that's the other thing about show business. People are always like, it's show business. It's not show fun. It's not show therapy.
Well,
but I'm kind of like, yeah, that's true. But a lot of times the business thing wrecks stuff, throws a wrecking ball and things. I mean, Chappell Roan was talking about that when she got her Grammy recently. She was like, you know what? You guys are supporting me now and I'm making all kinds of money. But my songs hit and it was the middle of COVID, I didn't have health insurance, even though I was signed by a label. So there's some amount of give and take that needs to happen. And sometimes it is, sometimes it happens.
I think, similar to you, I did a Rex Sikes movie beat back. I started, I think, in 2009. I still do it, and we just moved the podcast over, and it's got 600 hours of shows too, oddly enough.
Wow!
And but it just got moved. I'm going to be talking to the guy that moved it now. It's going to a different aggregator or something. But I did that because when I was a young actor in Hollywood, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing half the time, and I just want somebody to tell me, "Stop it! You're being stupid. Here's what you need to do instead." And I didn't have someone like that. So my acting coach was like, you're the worst, one of the worst people in Hollywood, Rex. You're a nasty guy. You don't know what you're doing. You're making everybody mad at you. And it's true. I mean, it was true at the time. So when I did the podcast, it was what to do and what not to do in order to have a film career, or career in television. And I would interview people, and go, so, okay, what do you do? And then what do you definitely not do, And you learn from both sides, what. So I want to go through and look at your podcast and listen to your podcast on Fat Free.
Check it out. It's all there at fatfreefilm.com if anyone wants to check it out. It's all audio. It's on iTunes or whatever they call it now, Apple Podcasts and all that. There's some great interviews. I highly recommend the one I was saying just recently, which is Stuart Stern, who wrote Rebel Without a Cause, amazing writer.
Oh, yeah, right.
Was involved in Hollywood. Back then, the writer was much more involved in the production. He, discovered
fatfreefilms.com.
Fatfreefilm.com. Yeah. And the reason we call it Fat Free Film is because it was about making independent films on a budget, like cutting out the fat so that you could actually get the thing done. Because at the time,
it'd be this way.
What'd you say?
Fat Free Film.
Fatfreefilm.com. Yeah. Okay. And it's also at Apple Podcasts. Yeah, there's great ones. So Stuart Stern, really good interview. It's a longer one. I met him at Seattle Film Festival and we were just talking. I didn't even know that he was a filmmaker at all. We were talking about Cats or something. And then later on, I found out who he was. And I asked him to do this podcast, and I went over to his house and set down the little recorder. And I mean, it really rejuvenated my belief in what it is to be an artist. Great interview with Leonard Nimoy too. That was another thing. Kamala and I went over there to Leonard Nimoy's house, and he was like, I don't know what this is, but let's do it. And I set down the camera and we just talked, and he talked about his entire life, which was at the time, the only people that were doing that were maybe, I think Fresh Air was doing that. There were a couple of people, Charlie Rose, I suppose.
Right.
But long form interviews with people. Some of those interviews are like, I think the only long form interviews with these people that exist. Yeah. And some of them are long gone.
No, that's amazing. That's so very cool. So now you're doing a new show, which has been new for 5 years. I mean, it's not a brand new show. You've been doing it a while. And it's called...
I still think it's kind of new in that it's a new genre.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like this has been fully developed yet. This idea that the thing that we're doing right here, which is the live streaming with with comments, a chat room. I think that is something that is just starting right now, similar to what podcasts were back in 2005 or whenever I started Fat Free Film. I don't think it's been fully realized, and I don't think the audience has been fully realized yet. But Fat Free or Joel Marshall's Lunch Therapy. The reason it's called Joel Marshall's Lunch Therapy is because I started it. Somebody in the chat room said you should call it lunch therapy because we were doing it during the day at noon every day. I was doing it every day at noon, right when COVID hit.
I remember that. That's right. You were doing it every day.
Every single day, and even on Sundays. And they were like, you should call it lunch therapy. And I did. And then later on, I found out there was another lunch therapy. So I call it Joel Marshall's Lunch Therapy. And actually, Marty Croft, who was on the show of Sid and Marty Croft, who has since passed away, he said that he was at the Polo Lounge having lunch with Elizabeth Taylor or somebody. There's all these famous people. And Walt Disney walked by. And Walt Disney said, I really like your puppets. And he was like, thank you very much. He's like, one thing that I want to tell you, though, is always put your name above the title, because otherwise people won't know who you are.
Yeah.
And so ever since then, Sid and Marty Croft is always Sid and Marty Croft's Electra Woman and Dinah Girl or whatever show it is. And so that was when I put Joel Marshall above the title, but also because I wanted to differentiate it from this other wonderful show that's about eating food. And on our show, we don't really eat food. We don't really do therapy either, but we try.
Well, that's interesting because when I was developing the podcast and the website for it, I was like, what do I call it? What do I call it? And my tech guy said, why don't you call it Movie Beat? And I went, Movie Beat. Sounds like a reviewer thing. He said, we'll call it Rex Sykes Movie Beat. I'm like, okay. And I was like, all right, because people always call me up then from that podcast and go, will you review movies?
Oh, they do.
Well, I don't review movies. Where have I ever reviewed a movie? I go, I make movies, so I know how hard they are to make. I'm not going to review a movie because no matter how bad it might be, no matter how much I dislike it, I know how much
hard it is,
and blood and sweat and tears went into making it. So I may say it, I didn't enjoy the movie. It was a waste of my 2 hours, but I'm not gonna, if somebody asked me in private, I'm going, I didn't care for it. But
we've taken to talking just recently. Lunch therapy Joel Marshall's Lunch Therapy is always
Joel
evolving. It's Joel Marshall's Lunch Therapy, JMLT. JMLT is always evolving. But the last couple of episodes on Tuesdays, because Tuesdays is different than Fridays. Tuesdays is more of a variety show, and it's much more interactive. Whereas Fridays is much more like Fat Free Film, where I interview somebody. But Tuesdays is always evolving. But lately, we've been talking about the Oscar candidates, all the different movies that are out, and doing a little bit of reviewing, but mainly just from our own point of view. And also, I guess when a movie's up for an Oscar, it's not as vulnerable as like reviewing some brand new, film that has just come out that somebody just busted their ass to just even get it to the screen.
Well, what I like about what you do and what you offer is that you are, one, very innovative, very creative, very funny, and at the same time very sensitive and you listen well and you interview well and you have great conversations with people. But
Thanks.
You also have the tech background. I'm low tech, and you're up there with the tech. You have music and stuff that you cut in and different videos, and I really appreciate that. You're very talented.
Thank you. It's been a long road. I think I probably got on the internet when it first came out, when it used to be just at colleges and you had to like dial on a phone. But then when I went and did Shakespeare, I did no computer stuff. I was like, I'm against the internet. I don't, because I think it's going to ruin everything. That's what I thought back then. And it's true to a certain extent. But also, like I say, I've got this separate world where I'm doing my entertaining. And then I also have a job, a tech job, where I help people with their computers at a law firm. And so because I'm so adept at computers, it's always helped me to make my own things.
That's great.
So they kind of work together in a way. And that's kind of been a blessing for me because I'm not afraid of tech. And I also can run the show while I'm doing it, which I liken to being a DJ.
Yeah, it's a great way of thinking of it, because you incorporate so many different things. And if I could do that, I'd have clips of your show here right now.
Yeah, that's always fun. Although, you know what? It takes so much time. It's so time consuming. That's one challenge that I'm dealing with at this stage, because I think the most important thing about having a show on the internet, an independent show like this, is that you be consistent. So I 2:00, noon on Tuesday and noon Friday, you can pretty much count on that show happening live. There are a couple of times where I don't do it, but it's rare. And that consistency is super important to me, because I felt like with my Fat Free Film podcast, it lost its consistency after a while, and then I lost the thread. So sometimes I'm a little bit relentless about hanging on to those times. But I also think that it's worth it in the end, if there is an end. I don't know if there's an end, but I think it's worth it to cultivate an audience.
What you're also saying is, beyond what you do, you're doing it for an audience who's there for you, and you're loyal to your audience. So you show up in order to deliver what you said you would. No lies. You're delivering like
no lies. It's a no lie zone. Well, I really appreciate the hummingbirds, which is what we call the viewers of the show, because they are so loyal to the show, and they contribute so much. A lot of them come on the show often. I'll have people come on but also in the chat room, I feel like that's such a major part of the show. They're making jokes. They're talking to one another. There's a community there. There's a community there for artists. There's a community there for other people that don't consider themselves artists. We have people that are in construction. We have people that are lawyers. We have lots of people that are involved in that. And our main goal is to uplift everybody. And like I say, take a break from the crap, things that might be getting you down in life, whether it be the news or whether it be the plumber or whatever it is. This is your moment to take an hour or even 5 minutes. If you got 5 minutes, just to jump in and make some weird comment and leave. And everybody is very, no one's mean-spirited. I mean, and I think that that's one of the things so many comedians these days are complaining about being canceled and all that stuff. And I think that the criteria for being canceled is you're being mean-spirited. You're punching down at somebody. You're being mean. You're being putting images in our head that maybe we don't need. And so this is a break from that. And we try. I mean, there are times that we fail, but for the most part, I think it's sort of an uplifting thing.
Oh, it's very cool. You have a great show, and everybody who's watching now live or in replay needs to go and see Lunch Therapy Tuesdays and Fridays live with Joel and his guests, and or the replays, which are also available at his YouTube channel.
Yes. Dogs are welcome too.
Bailey just always likes to say, "I'm here, everybody. I'm here."
Bailey can show up
behind the scenes, but I'm here. Sasha's just like, chill. Bailey's like, nope, well, I'm here.
I like Bailey.
What I wanted to do was to ask, and I think Kamala is having your community very close. And I think the last time you were on my show, I believe, unless it was one of the times I was on your show, but I think you were in my show. You were doing an evening performance with Kamala out by, I think, over by Universal Studios or something.
We were doing a play. Was it that? It couldn't have been that long ago, though.
2-person play, right?
Yeah, we did do a 2-person play called The Lover. And,
I think so, yeah, and because I think we were talking about that when you were on the show. I believe it was my show. It might have been for the Tribune. I mean, you've been on the Tribune with Ginny and Kamala and.
Yeah, we were doing. Oh, that was the play reading. We did do a play reading recently.
Is that so?
Yeah, and that was super fun. Sometimes it's really fun to do play readings because you don't have to invest a whole lot of time into it. Like a lot of times with the play, you really have to, go the whole 9 yards. And it's a lot of times it's not paid. But this play that we were doing, or this stage reading, which is of a play, Kamala and I got to work together, just like we did with The Lover, which was like a Harold Pinter play that we decided to put on ourselves, which was a lot of work, and we did it, and we just had a blast doing it. But this was something that somebody had written, and maybe Kamala can give us the details of it in the chat room. But small audience, Kamala and I got a chance to work together. It was really super fun. I hope that they do that play. It was an interesting play because it was about a man and a woman in a relationship. And I don't want to give it away or anything. Well, I'm not giving you the title of it or anything.
We don't know what it is. No, but what I wanted, but
it was during COVID times, and it was during COVID times, and it was about their relationship, and it was the total evolution and devolution of their relationship, and that was and it was out of order. And it was by Jeff Gittles, The Anatomy of a Relationship.
None of this sounds familiar, but I have no idea.
You asked me, and I'm trying really hard.
I know. But no, so that was essentially a lead into my question.
Oh yeah, let me hear it.
Which is, what are you and Kamala doing now? I mean, we mentioned that you and Kamala produced
Equal Means Equal.
You know, and Ginny was involved in writing and producing. You know, Equal Means Equal, which has been a phenomenal movie. People haven't seen it; they do need to see it. And Kamala,
definitely see that movie.
Yeah, no. Very
so Kamala and I have been collaborating on multiple things. One of the things I think When This Kiss Is Over, that's what the name of the play was. When Kamala just finished a major action called Final Impact, which is about getting the Equal Rights Amendment published in the Constitution and getting it done before this next regime came along. And she was able to do all these actions, and she covered the entire West Hollywood library with pictures of people calling the president saying, you got to call the archivist and publish this thing that's already been published, and it gives women equal rights in the Constitution. So that happened. The president made a declaration that this thing is actually the 28th Amendment. That's as far as we could go with it at this point. It has been declared the amendment. There's still going to be litigation or whatever goes on with the infighting and the machinations of government. Kamala and I have been working. Just one thing in particular is a show called Good Old Joel, which is a single camera comedy. And we shot a scene from it. It's online. Kayla Fast is playing the other character in it. Kamala was the director of it. I wrote it. We're putting together this single camera comedy and doing just little scenes from it. I've been working on the scenes in my acting studio as well. So that's like something on the horizon that we've been working on. And then we're also actors, so we're auditioning.
Well, and if truth be told, single camera was the way it used to be done until it became 3-camera, 4-camera live.
Really? Tell me about it, Rex. Tell me.
Yeah. So
I didn't know that they did single camera before they did the 3-camera setups.
Yeah, it is amazing. And at one time you couldn't even move the camera; it was so heavy.
Oh yeah, and then I also used to do it live, which is crazy.
They did cave drawings with charcoal and shadow.
Yeah, the biggest thing was building the fire. That was the biggest prep that you had to do.
So that people know, because I've mentioned this before, I have flood in my home in the studio, and what Bailey's responding to is the pounding and the hammering from the people who are refurbishing the house or restoring.
Oh, I see.
Sasha's like, it doesn't matter what goes on, I'm cool. Bailey's like, a noise.
That's exciting. That's one of the things I like about live is you never know what's going to happen. That's what I like about live theater too. Like always, I always say it's the recovery that's interesting. When things go wrong, trying to make it right. And that happens on Lunch Therapy all the time. Sometimes the internet will go out, or sometimes the guest won't show up, or the guest will be late. And I have to kind of vamp. And sometimes I think that's the funnest moment, where things go wrong and we try and fix it. I also have a plastic skeleton that I want to give credit to. His name is Boney. He is my assistant.
If we didn't mention Boney,
he'd be so mad. He would be so mad. Yeah. He works diligently behind the scenes. He also takes a lot of the flack when things go wrong. But he can take it because he's got no guts. No guts at all. No guts, no glory. So yeah, he's been with me the whole time. He broke his arm off at one point because I was doing a thing where I was throwing him in the pool. So he gives it his all. Is there anything that you, Rex, would like to see on Lunch Therapy as it evolves? Is there anything, since you've seen many shows and participated in many shows, been on the show?
I've been on
Twice.
the show a few times. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything that you think like, that show could really use something?
Let me think about that, and we'll talk off the air. Not because I don't have something already. I'm very impressed with the show as it has unfolded over the years, and with all of the things that you do and all the stuff that you navigate and everything, and the guests that you've had. I don't have like improvement. So in terms of if there's something I would like to see in addition to what you're doing. I got to think of that one through.
Okay. One of the things that I do is I try and make it, like I was saying to you, like 1% better every time. So I try and add things as much as I can, but I also try and innovate. And sometimes I go back and look at shows from previous years and I'm like, oh, why did I stop doing that? Like I used to do a lot of scenes. Like Camel and I would do scenes before the show begins, and we'd be sitting at our kitchen table and I'd be like neurotically talking about something. Or we used to do Zoom scenes. So I'd like to do some more of that. We've been experimenting with a contest where you play through the chat room. It's a multiple choice contest that we've been doing every Tuesday, and then we give away a prize. So sometimes you can watch the show and you will get a prize in the mail that following week because you won the contest. So I'm experimenting with that. Just anything that I can do to make it give more value to people. And also,
I mean, given what you said, I like the interaction, the Camel of the scenes and things like that. I think the prize, the giveaway is a wonderful addition, but more interaction between the two, I think, is a good thing.
Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. And also that one of the things, the other thing that I've been doing is the Trash Panda Comedy Club, which is like somewhere in the middle of the show. I jump into the Trash Panda Comedy Club and do 3 minutes of stand-up that I'm working on. And then if there's a guest, they jump in, even if they're not a comedian, and they try to do 3 minutes of stand-up. And I found that that's been very helpful. This is just for people out there that might have their own shows. That's been helpful because I can chop up little bits of it, make YouTube shorts out of it. And those YouTube shorts are so important for bringing in new viewers because people see them when they're flipping through the shorts, and they get a lot of views really fast.
How about you do some of the, here I'm working on it, and then when you actually do the set somewhere and you have it filmed, that you could intercut between the two?
That would be interesting. It's funny because we had this guy on the show, Adam Bloom, who's a British comedian. We just had him on, and he was talking about what he calls boom mic moments, which I think is really interesting. And he says that a comedian, he said, when you're watching a film and the boom mic comes down, it kind of takes you out of the film. Sometimes that will happen in an actual film. I don't know if it still happens as much, but because now they could probably get rid of it. But yeah, when the boom mic comes in, you suddenly realize I'm watching a movie. He said there are boom mic moments for comedy too, and he specifically talked about Chris Rock and how he intercut between three different performances of the same routine, and the fact that he was cutting back and forth reminded you that he was not just speaking off the cuff, that he was doing a prepared monologue. And he said that sometimes that can be off-putting. And so I would wonder if we would have that same thing. But it's already a kind of behind the scenes kind of show. So maybe it would be good. Maybe it would be.
Well, you might grow with it. I mean, in other words, the first couple of times it maybe a hit, maybe, needs some massaging or whatever, but ultimately, you find the stride or you leave it. But
I see that sometimes when I'm researching somebody who's going to be on my show, a comedian, and I look at their material that's out there on the internet, and you can see their jokes develop, which is a really great lesson.
Right.
And you can see how they get tighter. You can see how they drop certain things. You can see how they used to step on the laugh. You can see how they add tags to the joke. It's really quite amazing. The internet, of course, has enriched us quite a bit, even though there's a lot of negative things about the internet. It has really enriched our ability as artists to understand other artists, to learn about process, and to be able to learn from the past. Because we can look up Shecky Green and learn all about his comedy and then be like, oh my God, nobody's doing what Shecky Green used to do. I'm going to do that. You can try things out without it being theft because he's long gone.
No, that's very true. But and the other thing though is that you remember the old days of like hard copy or whatever, the Inside Edition, where they did, hey, this new movie's coming out and here's the 2 stars, and that you see them and the reality TV magazine cameras over here and they're over there, and of course the real cameras here and the direct, that kind of thing. So you're focused on that, and there's a scene that they're going on and you go, it doesn't look that interesting. And then you see it with cut for the film and the close-ups and the 2 shots and the reverses and the other thing and the music and the scoring, and you go, well, that was nothing like what I saw when they made it, but what turned it into was this astounding piece of film. And so, I think
that's a great lesson for actors too, because sometimes, and for people, anybody, because sometimes we look at, I remember being in junior high school and there was a picture of me that was in the yearbook, or that they took for the yearbook or whatever. And I looked so bad. And I remember really, really depressed. And now I realize that was just bad lighting. You know what I mean? Like, so many times we give ourselves such a hard time comparing ourselves with other people on Instagram or wherever. And we think that they're so perfect. And we look in the mirror and we're like, oh, I got wrinkles or whatever it is. And we need to know these things. If we're going to enhance things, it's good for us to know as performers that it's magic. They're doing all kinds of magic to make the people look good and make the thing be a good product. But behind the scenes, there could be all kinds of mistakes and, imperfections. And that's all part of it. Yeah. Like right now, your mic went out, which is another imperfection. People will be like,
how interesting.
I
was going to say, I'm glad that you're here on my imperfect show. A perfectly wonderful guest. And of course, Kamala chimes in with saying lighting is everything.
Lighting is everything.
This is true. And if you can't see the camera can't see you. Always
remember,
if you cannot see the camera can't see you, so you don't get behind another actor.
My other tip is, if you're acting with somebody in a scene, look at one eye. Don't try and look at both of them.
And look at the eye closest to camera.
Look at the eye closest to camera. With what? Your other eye? Your eye, which, what are you? I guess you're.
But I mean, it makes sense though. If your camera's here and you look at the opposite eye, you're looking away. But if the camera's here and you look here, then you're more on.
I love that.
I mean, I can't demonstrate it, with here.
But you see it with maybe new actors or people that maybe haven't been on film. They could be like the greatest stage actor ever, but then you see them in a film or a television show and their eyes are going back and forth, back and forth.
Tennis ball eyes.
Tennis ball eyes. Like when you're on a train. Then it's really crazy.
Well, you know what? I have really enjoyed this. We're going to have to do this again.
Yeah,
and again and again and again, because I like you very much. I love you very much. And Kamala, and we'll have to have Kamala on. I was, while she was chatting, I was like, I don't know where she is. Maybe I should say, well, come on out, but she may not be there. So, but we will. Let's do that again. We'll have you and Kamala on again. Maybe we'll have Kamala and Ginny on. And
Ginny Sykes, one of my favorite people in the world.
And keep doing what you're doing, and be sure to check into Lunch Therapy on Tuesdays and Fridays with Mr. Joel Marshall. Let me make sure that I have that there. And fatfreefilm.com. And I really want to thank you and appreciate you for being here and putting up with all of the noise and distractions and stuff.
The show must go on.
The show must go on. Well, I like that too. That is one of the things that I very much. Oh, thank you. We love you. I love you too. I love you too. Nice. No, the live the and I know you feel this way, but I mean, you go, give me one person, give me 5 million people. I don't care. Just let me at them.
Yeah.
Film or theater, I don't care. Let me do it. And then all this, what you were saying, all the stuff that can go wrong, that could go wrong, that does go wrong, is just all more for the fun. You know,
It's
it's
all
like
part of it.
it's all part of it. I love
Yeah.
thinking on my feet. I love having to problem solve in real time
Yeah.
when your back is against the wall, kind of like, you know, and you're on performance and you got to go, because you can't do anything but do what you need to do in order to deliver. So it's a beautiful, beautiful place. I love that space. So
me too.
Thank you. And you do a marvelous, marvelous job at it. I will see you Friday. I hope I'll be there to see your show.
We've got Trish King on the show. She's from Maine, and she's a performer. She's a musician. She does a lot of cover songs. She does her own live streaming show. I've known her since the pandemic began. I've just known her virtually. We've never actually had a sit-down conversation, so it should be super interesting.
Well, that's so very cool. Well, Joel, hang around for a second. I'll be right with you. But in the meantime, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you.
My pleasure.
You. And Kamala, thank you. I love you both.
Love you too.
Well, that is Mr. Joel Marshall and Kamala Lopez. Again, go see the movie or find the movie anywhere you can online. I should have asked, but and we can put it up in the chat or whatever for Equal Means Equal, and go see Lunch Therapy and of course Fat Free Film. So do that. Now, I want to tell you about something that I'm really excited about that you need to know about. I do a program right now to help people overcome, difficulties with limitations, limiting beliefs, struggles and hardships in their life. I have a program called Create Your Best Life using Einstein and Tesla's Genius. And I'll give you the website right here. I'm really proud of this program because it has to do with how you approach the situation, developing your mindset, your heart set, so that you go through the experience without getting, shaken out, by your roots. You can develop a calm presence, a confident presence. So it's about problem solving. It's becoming more creative and using your own genius, and become more intuitive and relying on your own intuitive abilities. It has aspects of meditation, mindset, release and let go of problems and issues, and just a whole host of things that I don't want to tell you about it. I want you to go look at it. So go check out the program, rexsikes.com/Einstein, and go and see if this is not a fit for you or something that you need to do in your life. It's a beautiful, wonderful program. I'm so pleased with it. And it's not just about Einstein and Tesla, but it's a genius that's unlocked. There are many, many geniuses. And so we go through those. So go check it out. Go do that now. You'll be glad you did. Sign up, enroll if you decide that it's right for you, because it's always easier when you have somebody to help guide you, mentor you, coach you. All athletes, all business people who are worth their salt know the importance of coaching and mentoring. And so go check out rexsikes.com/Einstein and look at what's there. And then when you look at what's there and you decide that it's for you, jump in, do the program. Go at your own pace. It's online. There's a support group to support and all sorts of stuff, but it's there for you. And I love you. So with that in mind, I want to say thank you for being here today. Thank you for being here in the replay. And if you're watching by replay or live, go ahead, subscribe, like, comment, hit that notification bell when you do subscribe so you're notified about the new shows, and share the show. I can't reach everybody, but with your help, we can reach more people. And I appreciate it when you do. Thanks so much. Have a beautiful day and beyond. And as I always say, if you consider something a problem, it is a problem. And if you consider something a blessing, it's a blessing. So why not just celebrate everything? And with that, I'll see you the next show.